Hello, my name is Emilio Miguel Torres. I'm the writer and director of The Ladder, which is my debut feature film shot in Ketchikan, Alaska. I'm here with the star of The Ladder, Keith Smith, who plays Arthur, and we're in his beautiful home, which I have been in this past week working on another project. And it's been so special because, for those who don't know, I mean, this was like a second house for me growing up, you know? How's it been for you to have me back in your house?
Oh, I just always look forward to it when you come here, really. It's more that than anything else. But just watching you having gone through this entire process and coming out on the other side of it, you're you're on your own now. You quit your job, and so you're freelancing and have all kinds of projects, including the one that brought you back
Yeah,
to Ketchikan. And so all that's, I mean, for both Elizabeth and I mean, that's just cool.
yeah.
So,
And how has it been this past year since The Ladder? I mean, obviously, not everyone in Ketchikan has seen it, but they know about it.
oh, there's a lot of people very anxious to see it. So that's the most common question that I get about it is when can we see it? When can we see it? And I mean, we had just a very private showing, um, just a limited showing, I guess, and it's a year ago.
Yeah, yeah. Like a
So
year ago last week.
So yeah, but it's that the year I'm always excited to hear news of all the different festivals it's going to and different awards. We just got that like a award to the whole cast as best cast. That
Well,
was the coolest.
yeah, we won Best Cast at the 12 Lions
Yeah.
Film Festival, which was really awesome because that's only the second year that that festival has existed. There's not really a film festival like that in that area of Kentucky, and so but I did an interview with one of their, festival staff before the film, and after the interview, before we won the award, she just told me how when I submitted, I kind of submitted like a cover letter and was like, "Hey, I want to give context. So like this cast is like local people from Ketchikan. Many of them have never done any sort of professional acting before."
Yeah.
And I think they were just moved by that, and I think that's been true honestly in every festival setting. Like I love after the movie ends when I can go out and do a Q&A and I can tell people like, "Hey, I just want you to know like everyone in this movie is from Ketchikan,
Right.
you know."
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I went to the one festival in Arizona, and and the things that just came up again and again. I mean, everyone liked the movie, right? But amazed that it's all local cast. Everyone amazed about the way you were able to bring an entire community together to support something that would have been probably us. Don't you think outside anyone's price range had
Yeah.
you had to do it just kind of solo and pay for everything?
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like if someone were to come in as a producer, it would be probably 10 times as much as it would cost us
Oh
to
yeah,
make that
yeah,
movie,
yeah.
which, I mean, I always tell people like when they're like, well, how do I make a feature film if I'm in my 20s? I'm like, think of every resource you have. It just happened that I had Ketchikan, but everyone has their own version of Ketchikan, whatever scale it is. But before we get too much into it, because this maybe someone watching this video is the first time knowing it, I've
Okay.
never heard from your. I would be curious to hear from your words, your own mouth. If someone asked like, "What is Ladder? What is the story?" Can you tell me what it is?
Yeah, I would probably be imitating your elevator speech, but so so yeah, the latter has a science fiction premise in a town that, well, is very familiar if you know Alaska, but it's still just a town with regular people like our friends and neighbors, and there's a new technology coming to town. I'm playing the part of Arthur, and I'm a aching fisherman. I just can't do all the gear on my troller, and my kid has left to New York, is living in New York with his wife, and I'm still very much in love and connected in a kind of spiritual way with my late wife, and uh, and in the middle of all that, this new technology comes to town that gives that purports to upload one's consciousness and place it into a younger body.
Yeah.
And so the story of Arthur and the latter is that decision that he has to make, because anyone who talks about it, there's so many tempting things about it.
Yeah.
And especially at that point in his life. And then it just happens that Arthur's son is coming to town to share their big news with his wife, and the whole weekend kind of unfolds about, do I tell him or not tell him? It turns out they're really kind of against us. Anyway, that's the setup.
Right.
And to me, what one of the things I love about the film is that it's finally a family father-son movie. And then the premise, the film doesn't get, for a science fiction film, it doesn't get obsessed with its toys, and its effects, but really just becomes a fascinating way to talk about family.
Yeah. And, I've talked about this a ton, obviously, with you in rehearsal, but even like as I promoted the film, that like when I first started writing the script, it really just came from a basic realization I had when I came back from my first summer from college, where suddenly here I am as an adult in my dad's house. And even though like I'm gonna respect my dad, I'm gonna listen to him, there's that understanding of like, oh, from this point forward, I'm his son, but I'm also have my own life, I have my own sense of authority, and there's that rift alone was enough for me to start exploring it in a script. And I remember because obviously we made the short film in 2021 first, and I think it was either December of 2020 or January of 2021, or no, because originally we were going to do it in 2020 but COVID delayed us, so it would have been December 2019 or January 2020, and I had the script and I shared it with you at that point. But even before I had gotten to that draft, months prior, when I started writing the script, it never had that sci-fi premise. It really just started. The first draft was just a phone call between Ryan and Arthur, and then sort of as I realized that Arthur's arc was one where he was going to realize that there was going to be a triumphant choice to accept a chapter of his life where Ryan is not, at the center of it, and find that sense of meaning and find that sense of purpose that he did that role as a father and did it great. I needed some sort of dramatic conflict to launch him into that. So then came the sci-fi premise, and but yeah, exactly. From the film from the very beginning was just like a conversation between a father and son, and it wasn't until we started working on the feature that Heidi, during rehearsal, if you remember, had said like, I feel like this story is of two men who just haven't taken the time to talk to each other about their grief of Susan passing away.
Oh, yeah.
And that really gave the film structure for me.
I think that certainly gave structure for me as an actor. Just the loss of and it's the loss of the late wife, but then all the different ways that tangles in with the loss of the son, and it gets written beautifully. I think just well, I don't know. I don't want to give away the end, but yeah, I mean, in that trip, they touch the electric rail or something, and then that moment has where you really can comprehend everybody's grief in that story.
Mm-hmm.
And what they've been living with, and the estrangement between each other, and in a certain way, Arthur's estrangement from life ever since his wife died. I mean, there's
Because I'm just curious, when I had you first read the full length feature length script, obviously you had thought about what the feature could be after we made that short film. What was? Did you remember what your initial reaction was with kind of where the script was going on that first read through?
Well, let's see. I mean, we talked about it in various stages, so the first read through wasn't really a surprise because there was a, you know, even that first script. I think we were sitting on this couch
Yeah, we were.
and reading and sort of and just sort of figuring out, you know, throwing around the Susan part
Yeah.
as the so. So I don't know. I mean, I didn't have any kind of judgment other than just sort of excitement as it was pulling together. And it's just, I think that I really admire your process in that. I mean, it's just you don't get stuck in something that you've already decided, and it just seems like the little shifts all the way along. All seemed right and the kind of thing that certainly instilled you know, well, everyone who knows you believes in you, so you know,
Oh yeah.
but
Well,
the belief coming from that.
I mean, obviously, I wrote the role for you, and we made the short film, and I think that was a success in its own right. But I did feel like when we started, even just rehearsals for the feature film, I kind of knew in my gut that the script wasn't fully there yet. But I was very excited because you're not just such a talented actor, but you're also such a talented writer, that you were always such helpful, like during rehearsal process, because I felt like, you know, we'd go scene by scene, and every single time, you know, you would help me either realize something that I needed to tweak, or I would hear it in your mouth and then realize, you know, or and you would help me when I was stuck. I'd be like, I don't know how to get this moment, and you would pitch things. And Ty obviously was great for that, and so was Heidi. And that's really, I mean, if anything, I've been told all my filmmaker friends, and not enough of my filmmaker friends work with theater actors, I feel. I'm like, you have to work with people who have not just acted, but also have directed and written, and you'll have a lot more collaborative process. And absolutely, I mean, I never want to be the kind of art tour director who's like, it's my vision or nothing. I want the story to work.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I I have I've been accused about having an opinion about everything. So it's nice to have been involved in the collaborative process where at least I feel like everything I said was heard, and that's all anybody ever really wants anyway, right? It's
Yeah.
just hear the idea so you can think about something else.
Well, as a playwright and theater artist, I feel like I witnessed you kind of have a mini film school working on the movie, because I feel like sometimes there was times where you would pitch an idea, and I'd be like, I know where Keith is coming from, but I know from an editing perspective, you know, that
Oh,
like, you know, there's another thing. I was curious what your thoughts were about the difference between film and theater. And
Well, that was just you know, it's fun to be in the middle of something where you're learning and realizing how completely ignorant you are. So, yeah, I was. It was from day one. So many parts of it. I mean, just the really basic thing that comes up all the time. I mean, who knew? I mean, people who make films know that you're shooting the whole thing with one camera.
yeah.
So, and once you think about it, it's obvious because as you're shifting back and forth between perspectives, there would be the other cameras would all be showing up
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
film, so it would be impossible. The camera has to move out of the way, so you just do it from one camera,
Yeah.
and so all the things that drives, like doing a scene. I mean, I knew that you'd always be in when you're making a film and you're shooting the scene several times.
Yeah.
And I always just assumed, you hear about that, I assumed that that was just because you wanted to get it right,
Yeah.
which is true. But you also, but there's 8 shots
Yeah.
to be, you know, angles for the camera for each scene.
Yeah.
And one for the person, You know, two people talking, one for the person talking, but the other person for the reactions back and forth, and then the shot with both of them together. So, I mean, obviously that's so basic to you, but to me, it's like, oh. And I didn't know, I'd never been in a film. Well, it's not really true. I was in people's art projects in college, you know, but it wasn't really making a film. It was just a point and shoot
Yeah.
why I told a story. So I was on film, but not part of a film.
Right.
And so, so I had no idea if I could do it, how I was going to react under the camera, how it was going to feel. Uh, how I was going to feel inside doing it, you know, finding the place where you're going to sit. You were very helpful. I think you had a couple of films you had me watch.
Yeah.
I think the Francis McDermott in Nomadland was very, very useful
Yeah.
for me to see that how that film progressed. And not only that, all the non-actors
Yeah.
that are also in that film and seeing how that worked, I think was really helpful. But I didn't know I could. I didn't even know if I could do it. And so it was really a process of discovery
Yeah.
in myself in the middle of the scenes to see, one, learn that really, unlike being on a stage, you don't have to project. I mean, projection in theater is the enemy of authenticity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the really hard part for anyone to project and be authentic. That's what's so amazing when someone can do that on stage.
Yeah.
But you don't have to worry about that when you have two people following you around in the camera.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, and you know that bathroom scene, right?
Yeah.
It's like fitting frat boys into like a Volkswagen. How many can you fit in? You know, and I see that shot, you know, that shot, and I'm in the mirror and I'm rinsing my mouth or taking pills,
Yeah.
and I have to laugh when I look at it because there's like three people crammed in the bathtub, and there's always like someone with two mics sticking here. It's just you're just. You know, and no one can take too big of a breath or it'll jiggle up the whole system. So, and finding that I was so surprised that I could maintain focus in that. In fact, I felt like I was able to have more focus under those conditions than on stage conditions.
Yeah. You mentioned that. It's almost like the chaos of it just let you focus on the moment.
Well, also, you know, the attention of an audience, when you're attuned to the audience, is a really important part of the process. But when the attention is coming from every single person at that moment of the shoot with absolute silence, that are surrounding you and looking in various screens and for that moment, it's a super focused moment.
Yeah.
I think that I think it's just natural, and I just didn't know that. It's natural to step in that and step into your character and just and you don't have to worry about messing up because you're going to edit it all out anyway, you know. And so it's really like flying. And that was a tremendous experience for me. You know, there's a lot of principles that are just the same, even more so. I think we were talking earlier about something else, and it's just sort of like trying too hard it's the enemy of art.
Yeah.
It leads to ambition. You see every art form where things are ruined by a certain kind of ambition.
Yeah.
And I mean, the good kind of ambition is the ambition to be able to do the work and use one's gifts and just work. But the idea to show oneself as smart or show us what, all the actors one sees where you see them acting like an actor. But finding in film where one can sort of, it's just natural for just letting all that stuff disappear
Yeah.
and just be in a moment.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I love that you found that sort of like flow state in the process, because I've witnessed, and I do know some actors, I think they have almost the opposite experience, because for, in theater, the show's going to keep going regardless of your pace. But with acting, especially when it's your close up, yeah, you're right. You have like 20 people all staring at you. And if you don't get that, we're going to keep going until you get it. And I think for some actors, that can be really nerve wracking. It can feel like really almost higher stakes than a show.
So they could feel like they're failing.
Right. And it's all on them versus
Yeah.
like
And
a
like,
show has a
oh,
lot of
Oh
factors.
gosh, we've had to do that again. It's
Yeah.
my fault.
Yeah. Which, but I agree. I mean, as a director, I find, because I have not directed as much theater as I've done film, but like one times I directed theater, that I was just like, I remember it was the opening night of this play that I directed in high school, and it was through this program with the Fifth Avenue Theater. And I remember, I mean, the actors in it were awesome, but like I felt like that final dress rehearsal we had it perfect, and then it was like, I don't know if it was nerves or whatever, but just like all the choices we made went out the window, and it was that instinct of like, wait, I want to call cut because we got to fix this. And but no, for me, I mean, I think it can be a lot of pressure to direct, but I really feel that flow state on set where it's like there's a necessity to be completely present, because what's the point of not, getting it right? Yeah.
But when it's working well, so what we had a team of, I mean, just what, 16 people,
Yeah, 12 or 16.
12 or 16 on the crew, and then the actors that are there as well. But you know, I could see you all being in a flow state too, and with what is it? The assistant, everyone's job. The assistant director is the keeper of the clock.
Yeah, Rebecca.
Rebecca, right? And she's the one who's absolutely not in a flow state.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
And there's so many little parts of that. Yeah, you've planned out a whole film, and every piece has to be shot, and there's rooming in airplanes, and airplane reservations, and tight little windows of when we can use a particular site and all that, and you just have to be on time. So it was like you and Toby and Jackson in this complete flow state, and then Rebecca in the middle is saying, cornering you.
Yeah.
Cornering you and saying, really, I'm telling you, we have to be done in 5 minutes. You're going, yeah, I know. But the group making it happen, and I was so astonished by the process, and I just felt like I was in a continual state of being moved. And partially, one of the most moving things to me is seeing someone doing, especially a young person, doing what they were made to do, and so all of you on the team was that, but having known you so much of your life, especially you, so it was just moving because it was so obviously where you were doing what you were meant to do right there, and so it was just moving just to just trust and fall into the entire process, and that's part of, I felt like, insofar as I was successful, that trust allowed that, and just the atmosphere of trust. It was just a cool thing to be part of.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, thank you for that. And also, I mean, yeah, credit to everyone on the crew. Credit to Alexandria, who
Oh yeah.
not just was seeing everything from the top level and executing when the things that needed to happen that weren't on set, but some of those crew members were friends of friends or I'd never worked with before, but Alex had hired them and they were so great. But
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's so much talent especially in the indie film scene, where it's you you can find a group of 12 people who are willing to go to Alaska and make a movie, and it's that pairing of like, can you find that talent and pair it with a community like Ketchikan who's going to embrace that talent and provide the opportunity. And but the other aspect of like an AD keeping you on schedule and a producer keeping you executing is sort of that the cost of filmmaking is so high
Oh yeah.
that like you're always burdened by the cost. I mean, you were mentioning earlier like you thought that there's films that do a bunch of takes because they're just trying to get it right, or multiple cameras. There are a lot of films, especially in TV, that will shoot with multiple cameras because you're right. Like some shots you couldn't do a two shot, but there's a lot of times you could block a scene. Martin Scorsese family shoots with a lot of two cameras, and that's because from my understanding, he does a lot of improv on set. So if something's improvised, he wants to get it from the reaction and the and the line. But it just goes back to the indie filmmaking thing of like we only had the budget for one camera,
Yeah.
and we only had Santiago, our editor. I mean, I think he did such a great job editing the film. He's won best editing at a film festival for the film, but when you're working at the budget level and with the schedule we had, there were so many scenes and days where I wasn't looking for a creative expression. Like I wasn't like, we're gonna do this take again so I can have another option in the editing room. Sometimes it was the light was wrong, the sound was wrong, or an actor wasn't hitting the right moment, and I was just clawing until we got it, and then I had to move on because we would never finish the film if we didn't
Right.
just.
Right.
And so in some of the scenes there, I think this is true for any indie film, and I'd imagine probably even the highest level in the industry directors feel this way too. But there's a lot of scenes where it's magical, but you have to know like that was our one take. Like there wasn't another way to cut that scene together. Having going from set and then you saw the film obviously in the Ketchikan screening and then you saw it at the Phoenix Film Festival. Was it a weird experience, kind of seeing it edited together with sound and color and music?
Oh, it was so. I mean, all those things, as you know, are just elevating it, and I mean, just amazing to be part of something that ended up given the whole team, the editor, the sound that Alex put together, all of that was so professional and right,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was just a kind of elation. Once it's hard. I'm sure that actors who've acted in a lot of films, maybe they get over this, but the first part of a watching of any film has got to be was for me just the painful awareness of myself, you know.
And you're in basically every moment of the
Oh
movie,
yeah.
so
So you know, I there's parts that feel oh authentic, and then there's certain little parts that's like where I can just feel the tiny lie in it, and so what was great in Arizona at the film festival there, because there were so many screenings of it, and we were at each one, was somewhere at that point to just be able to just love the film,
yeah,
and the fact that it was me up there didn't matter,
yeah,
and so growing awareness of each one of really special parts, like the sound, the water, just the mood, the soundtrack,
yeah,
just how the color, Ketchikan's color,
yeah,
and just the rainforest. It's just the moodiness. It really is a great portrait of just we live in a very moody place with
Yeah.
its colors and the water. I mean,
Yeah.
'cause
Well,
if we live in a watercolor, really, is what we do, and you put it on film, but with just just the tones of that. So
well, thank you for that. And I definitely feel one success I've had as a filmmaker with the movie is there's been many times across our screenings or when people have seen it where they say a comment like, "Oh, I feel like Ketchikan is a character in the movie," or "I feel like you captured Ketchikan well," which was always my goal with this movie because, you know, at some point as a filmmaker, what I find interesting or compelling is just what I personally find interesting or compelling in life. And growing up here, I always thought like this is the most magical place, and the salmon life cycle is this like mystical thing, and the ladder is this feels like this very like cosmic
yeah,
structure, and it just I followed that instinct to a film, and it was awesome. And I agree. I think in not just the music. I mean, Josue Vera, who did the score, which that's one of my favorite stories, is how the entire score is based on the "You'll Be My Wife" theme.
oh right,
Like the like da, 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 like that's the music throughout the whole movie,
right.
and that started with your pitch of that little sea shanty song that you imagined Arthur and Susan would sing together.
Right. Yeah. Well, when we figured out who Susan was, that she was
Yeah.
a songwriter, and then coming up with that song, yeah, hearing that throughout, well, that was very satisfying.
Yeah.
No, as a portrait of Ketchikan, I mean, the film is has life and will have life on so many different levels. But one is for anyone who's ever lived in Ketchikan and wanting I've had the opportunity to show it to some people and really excited about it just to show 'em my town.
Yeah.
It's like my friend Diane who went to the New York festival and she's never been here, but just to be able to say, yeah, see where I live. But it's not just the landscape. The other part is see where I live in a community where all these people can populate the film
Yeah.
in a beautiful way. I mean,
Yeah.
just the talent of everybody.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a minute long stretch of people we thank in the credits because there was so many people in big and small ways that made the movie possible, and I think that comes through in the film. Like almost like I find when people watch the film, it's always fun to do the Q&A after and to explain context, but I think they can kind of tell that like especially if they know anything about filmmaking, they can tell like, oh, this movie clearly had to have been made with a lot of community involvement because there's just so many locations. I mean, that was something that I remember in pre-production, my crew was like, Emilio, are you crazy? There's like, it's like 20 different unique locations in this movie, and we're only shooting for 14 days. Like, how are you expecting to make that work?
I heard people gasp when you told them that at the festival because it's how does someone get so lucky? But that's the part that it's hard for anyone to see it who doesn't know it. This is the town that just turns out for each other
Yeah.
when anybody needs anything. I had pneumonia and was in hospital for 4 days, and we had like 3 weeks of hot meals brought to our house every day. When Philip was born, it was 4 weeks of just people getting on, just turning out, bringing things, making sure we were okay, and they do that for everybody. So you can't. It's hard for someone to see a film because there's so much in it to fathom that there's, the Tongass Federal Credit Union. There's the landing that turned over their entire place for the day.
Yeah.
There's there's the cannery and TSS
Yeah.
and
Well, even the city and the
beautiful house
police
in the
letting
city.
us shut down streets and
Oh
doing
yeah.
police escorts and my favorite story, which I've
Uh-huh.
told before, was when we were figuring out the logistics for the boat day. And I'm realizing like, okay, well we need Arthur's troller, we need Joe's boat,
Right.
but we're probably gonna need two, maybe three additional boats for all the, choreography. And I remember just my crew looking at me like, we shoot in a couple days. How are we gonna find three boats?
Oh yeah.
And one Facebook post, and I was like, take your pick of what boat you want.
Bill Mex, yeah, his boat that we filmed on, which was wonderful. Um, yeah, there's so many heroes,
Yeah.
just of generosity, and that's the thing. I guess there's no, this is such a generous place,
Yeah.
and so I can see that, and I can point it out, to someone watching it, not just someone who ends up streaming without knowing it or whatever.
Yeah.
Won't be able to see that, but it's still just such a cool thing that it exists,
Yeah.
and
No,
we made it.
I know. I know. I mean, and I'm curious because I agree with you. Like, it's like, I'm curious to see when this film is out there. My hope would be that if someone watches it somehow and they don't know anything about Ketchikan, they don't know anything about me, and they're just watching a sci-fi fishing film, that there's enough in the film that they then look it up and see the whole backstory. But I do think I take pride in that. Like, the movie works as a story in a vacuum. Like, you don't need to know
Right.
the community contribution to connect with
Right,
these characters
No, at all.
and things like that. Yeah. So again, thank you for your performance in the film, because I mean it's the entire movie is you. So
Well, I'm so proud to be part of it, and yeah, I mean, the film is so clearly successful to everyone watch it, and since I'm in almost every shot, and I haven't ruined it, I figure I must have been okay then.
you
But
did awesome. No, and it's so, for me it's so special because I mean I wrote the part for you because when I started writing it and I just was coming up with this character and trying to imagine this very like kind of tender but also kind of harsh, like harsh exterior but tender inside, and I wanted to have like a gravelly texture in the voice. And I remember writing the script, I was like, oh, I think Keith can do this because, growing up in Ketchikan, you and Elizabeth were really second homes mentors for me. I mean, First City Players is the other core of this film, because when you think about it, like, I discovered my love for storytelling and my wonder for theater and film with First City Players. And almost every single person in the cast has either been in First City Players with me or like without me. And Elizabeth helped me. I remember doing the casting. She was a very helpful advisor and doing the in-person casting when I was virtually. And I just think it's like, when you think about it from that perspective, I mean, you growing up for me were a mentor. I mean, you built my first shoulder rig with me.
Yeah.
You taught me how to catch a salmon. And you also, I remember as a kid, like when I was still just kind of early doing creative writing or storytelling, you were always game. You were like one of the only adults in my life who would hear me out about some crazy story idea I had when I was 10 and take it with so much serious. Like we were actually in like a workshopping process. and and that stuck with me.
That's cool. Yeah, I remember some of that now. Had you ever seen me in a play?
I want to say yes, but I can't recall. I mean, were you? I mean, you were definitely in Fish Pirates as a drunk at one year, right? No,
No,
never.
no. See, you might have just taken me on faith.
No. You had to have been in a play at some. Wait, I'm gonna run through. You weren't an Angel of Lemnos,
No, no.
but did you direct Amadeus? Was that correct?
No.
No?
Were
Were
you
you
in
in Amadeus?
No.
There has to be a play that I saw. I definitely have seen you perform before. I just can't remember which one.
I'm trying to think of what.
I mean, I saw so many plays and musicals growing up in Ketchikan.
No, at a certain point, I had done when I first came to town, was in a ton of plays and had directed a number of plays, and then there was just a kind of hole for tech,
Yeah.
and so I just taught myself how to do lighting and put together soundscapes and
I know it's very
all of
creative
that.
prop and
And all the sets, building and designing the sets, and so that really that took away. I hadn't been in a play for quite a few years, so through a good part of your life, I think, here, I think you were already gone by the time I played the dad in Proof.
yeah.
Yeah, that was one of them. But
Yeah, I'll have to look through the archives because I'm almost positive I saw you perform at one point as a kid. But I just knew you as a creative
right.
person,
Yeah.
and I remember you were writing. One thing that was inspired me as a kid was you were writing a novel, like a
Right.
children's novel, when I was a kid.
Right.
And that just filled me with so much wonder, and but yeah,
I'll have to send you a copy.
yes. And then I mean you've been in playwriting festivals and won
Yeah.
awards and things like that. So I mean you just know, and to be fair, like I I wrote there was no dialogue I wrote for Arthur that I could not close my eyes and like perfectly hear you say and do just as who I knew you as a person, which is helpful. I mean, we'll have to get a different film where you can play completely opposite Arthur, because I think even sometimes Arthur was a little more, maybe more. I don't know, maybe what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I think you and I both in the rehearsal process, even though I wrote the script, found ourselves like frustrated with like Arthur's almost like whether it was insecurity or it was just pain for why he couldn't sort of just address what he needed to address for Ryan and such. But that's the that's the struggle of the film, is that I want the audience to sort of feel that within Arthur. Feel of like, oh, why doesn't he just blink, or why doesn't Ryan just blink?
There's so many plots that are put together like that throughout the entire canon of literature,
Yeah.
where you're reading a Jane Austen novel, and it's like, well, if she would just tell him this now, we wouldn't have to read 300 more pages.
Yeah.
So no, that's part of the process. Is the thing that the character is having trouble getting done, and the whole plot arises out of that. So
Yeah, which is not everyone's cup of tea. I mean, I do think, I as much as I think a lot of people have loved the film, I do hear criticisms, or I read reviews online, and sometimes people say like, oh, it's too slow, or the dialogue is like awkward or whatever, and I'm like, that's a fine criticism for me, because there was a deliberate choice
Yeah.
to have the film be a slow pace and to have the dialogue be frustrating. And if that's a story you can go along with, I think you'll love the film.
and the tendency of sort of sitting in a pace like that is really a feature of independent film.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that because people who like independent film get that.
Yeah.
And they get what's happening there. And so, sometimes it's hard to just have, been weaned on action films and to parachute down and watch something with that kind of pace and that kind of dialogue,
Yeah.
where you're meant to feel something.
Yeah. Well,
It's not going to work for everyone.
no, it's not. But also, like, when we go back to before we started filming, I sent you films to watch, like Nomadland. I think I don't know if you actually saw it, but I actually watched Ikaru, which is the black and white Japanese film from Akira
Oh, yeah.
Kurosawa.
Yeah, what's
Like,
that?
so many
What's
of
The
those.
Irishman?
Yeah, The Irishman.
What was the one with Dustin Hoffman in it?
Oh, Meyerowitz stories.
Yeah.
And all those films are, I would say Irishman has a bit more Scorsese-ness to it, but I think all those films have a lot of slow pace, frustrating dialogue, but I love that stuff. You
Yeah.
know. Okay, coming back to whether it was in New York or whether it was in Ketchikan, I'm curious. Did you like have any particularly memorable days on set or scenes that you just enjoyed?
Okay, there's the ones I enjoyed and the ones that are just unforgettable because of the
Because of the
circumstances.
misery.
So, so they fall into categories. To me, the some of the most satisfying scenes for me in the experience were particularly with Ty, but Ty and Heidi. Um, they're so good. Oh, and also, well, yeah, and Hunter.
Yeah.
Um, uh, just where the chemistry was right, and I just felt like I was flying because they were so good. There's no little Jedi trick I had to do inside. I just had to be there with how they were being, and it felt like whatever I did with the script, it just it just came out. It just felt good, and it felt real. And it's like coming out of each of those scenes was this tremendous feeling that we had just done something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was satisfying. And Hunter, I felt like, I still just l- love, because we didn't rehearse it that much.
No.
And I don't think he was here. I think
No,
he was
he
in
was on a
Colorado
cruise
and
and
a
yeah.
cruise and all that. So it's just, so we really had to invent that relationship on the spot.
Right.
And it certainly wasn't how we normally are together, but we both got it in a way where I felt like we just kind of cruised into it. It was very satisfying,
Well,
and I just
that was one of my favorite days on set when we shot at the landing and seeing you guys get that friendship. But then also there was a bit of concern with my choice because I casted Tyler and he also hadn't been able to rehearse with you in person before he showed up, and I had Tyler watch Hunter in the first half of the day when we shot the opening diner scene, and then when we watched the Act Two dining scene, it was I was so happy because to me it felt like you and Tyler had the same friendship that you had created with Hunter in a really like unexpected way.
I can't wait to see what Tyler does next. I know he's yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was tremendous. He was just solid. All those scenes were just kind of sealed by how good they were.
Yeah.
I think we all made each other better, and
Yeah.
those were good. And then yeah.
And unforgettable moments.
Well, the unforgettable moments when in the upload scene where we were in New York, and Natalia had invented this tank and the light with the water, and they were gonna fill it up with warm water, and and when the water was this deep, and this is for me to be fully submerged in, so the water was this deep, they ran out of hot water, and went and found the water tank. There was a hot water tank, and it was this tall.
Yeah.
And so they were pouring
Kettle water.
kettle water, running 2 coffee machines, pouring there while filling it up with cold water, and it was just so cold. It was so cold, and of course, it being a film, you have to film it 25 times from 5 different angles, and it had some great effects.
Sure.
Like I was imagining for myself after the upload to like step up and sort of like have this having had this transcendent moment of the flashbacks that happen, and it's just there's some things that you can't act. You can't act past your physical response.
Yeah.
I mean, some people can they? Can anyone do that?
I mean, maybe if you're like prepped enough for a specific task, maybe.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I imagine like Tom Cruise when he jumps out of helicopters and has to do stuff flying in the air, but he's kind of insane.
Yeah, but that's your reaction is the right reaction when you jump.
He's not acting like
It's not like you have to. It's how can you act against? I mean, can anyone just be warm and fuzzy while they're freezing?
Right.
I mean, the shock of cold water. You just mellow and just kind of what I'd
No,
like to
you're
see
right.
that actor.
You're right.
So I'm coming up out of there going, I mean, I'm trying to control it, but I look so determined that it totally changed the meaning of that scene, and you made and you made it work.
Yeah.
and it's wonderful. But
Well, I mean, I would say, I mean, I know because you told me how freezing it was, that it was freezing. But on the set day, I did not see this struggle to act. It read like someone who just woke up from this crazy computer process where they were sucking your memories, you know?
Yeah.
And, but no, yeah, definitely that whole tank process was such a crazy journey, and it was very fun, but also just that whole day, like the helmet did not arrive till like right at when we started shooting, and the water was cold. So I do apologize, but but it was your last day on set, so I was able to you know, if you wanted to quit after that day, that was going to be okay.
but the worst day was not that.
Okay.
The worst day was, and to really understand that for someone who doesn't live in Ketchikan, we're just surrounded by beautiful, fresh salmon. Freezers, everybody has freezers full of it.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And everyone has a favorite salmon.
Yeah.
Elizabeth loves sockeye. I love king salmon. You know, all of them are pretty good if you get them when they're ocean bright.
Yeah.
And then there's this terrible thing that happens to salmon where they metabolize all their muscle tissue, so they lose all their fat, and it turns into a hump.
Yeah.
And they get fighting teeth, and they lose their silveriness, and they're kind of like this gray, and they get covered with this slime. And so if you're not from here and you just say, oh, we need salmon for this scene, well, there's this place where you can buy bags for really, really cheap of the already metabolized humpback with fighting teeth slime things that have lost the flavor, that also have the kind of taste. And everyone who lives in Ketchikan is a salmon snob, right? So that's just a part of it. But so Mom's salmon for Heidi and Ty and I were just because I totally understand that they were just getting the cheapest stuff, but it was
also lukewarm.
lukewarm, overcooked on so the slime on the skin was also in the pot. So it didn't look very good, and it was awful. It was the most awful salmon that I had ever eaten on this play. And so it's like cutting it and it's saying, like, it's just not the same when it's not your mother's, when it's not made by your mother. And they're going, and then we're all just sort of like picking at it, like, and I think Philip, who saw the film, I'm not sure I ever took a bite. I mean, I did take a bite. I took several bites.
Yeah, I don't know if in the edit,
but that whenever I did,
you
you edited it out.
Yeah.
And that maybe it was because I Winston. So that was memorable, and it's truly a Ketchikan story because we all eat salmon, and everyone's
Yeah.
a snob about it. But I wasn't being snobby. It was really,
No. Well, I mean, definitely it was. I mean, we needed to have several plates of it ready to go because we were shooting for 6 hours on this scene and
oh yeah, and you needed lots
overnight.
of it, and oh,
And so, definitely, but no,
on a
that is
schedule.
true. And actually, in the film, there's never like a close up of the salmon because exactly right. I didn't want to show the fake salmon. People can imagine the best salmon they could imagine. But that's also, I mean, the dinner scene in the feature film is a really dense scene. I mean, I think it's like total 8 minutes of dialogue, and it's
Oh yeah,
where
so much
big
gets
reveal
so much
happens,
gets
and there's
done
so
on
much.
that, and
And that was like, I think either our first or second day of the shoot.
yeah,
We shot that.
yeah.
And it's such a demanding scene, and I'm having you eat just disgusting cold salmon for hours and doing it again and again and again from different angles.
Amazing. And well, and I think it probably like yeah, I think it probably contributed in a way to the mood.
Everyone's just miserable.
Yeah. No wonder they were fighting.
Well, I think on that note, that about wraps up the most of the conversation I wanted to get. But, and my phone, I think my phone's going off somewhere. I'll check it later. But I'm curious, just to wrap up this conversation, as you've seen the film, coming up here, we're going to be having our Alaska Festival premiere at the Anchorage International Film Festival, and we're going to eventually have it out on streaming. As the film gets out there, do you have any hopes for what audiences take away, either about Ketchkan, about the film, about me as a filmmaker?
I mean, you know, all films are not for everybody, obviously, and so the biggest hope is just like it's so wonderful in itself, and it's just it's it, you just want it to find its people, because when it finds its people, as it and does find its people, they love it and watch it over and over again,
Yeah, yeah.
and sort of like when you send your kid off to college, you know your first wish is you want him to find his people,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I think the truth and the honesty of the film, that people that love that in film respond to everywhere it goes. Um, that's exactly what a lot of us like and love. So the hope is just that that I think there's a having looked at notes like in the with the short version, there's always a conversation that's going to come from it. Is like, oh, would you do it,
Yeah.
or would you do it?
Hey!
Hi,
Famous director
there's
Elizabeth
a
Nelson
famous
just came
Elizabeth
home.
Nelson in the house. but but and I think that's just a fun question because it's anybody that I think there's a certain appeal of people watching that together because it's a good conversation that ends up having people really talking about what they feel about life in general, and it's in its most basic way. And so
Yeah.
it's the film is in the middle of a conversation that we're all part of throughout our whole life, but in an original and authentic way. So
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel, I agree. I mean, I think I love the fact that there's a kind of premise of a question that people love to debate and discuss after screenings. And recently, someone watched the film and they told me that they found the film life affirming. And I thought that was just like the best takeaway from the film. And when I look at the indie film landscape, the movie business landscape, we're definitely in an unprecedented time. We have studios changing a lot. Films are, I mean, there's AI, there's vertical, content like we've talked about. I mean, there's so many angles, but I think just the fact that we together with our crew, with our cast, with Community Ketchikan, were able to make a film that's wholly its own thing and put it out there, and it's gonna find its audience. Like, I couldn't be prouder, and I'm just so grateful you went on that adventure with me.
No, thank you.
Love you.
Love you.
And go watch The Ladder at a screening near you. Thank you so much for watching this. This was Keith Smith, Amelia Miguel Torres. We hope that you check out The Ladder, and we thank you for supporting our film.